Now, let's ride on a time machine and discover the early history of Japan. Although, not everything about it, but this will give you something at least. During the Jomon period, the inhabitants of Japanese islands were gatherers, fishers, and hunters. Jomon is the name of the era's pottery. The Jomon period is the earliest historical era of Japanese history, coinciding with the Neolithic period in Europe and Asia, and ended around 300 BCE when the Yayoi period began. The name Jomon, meaning cord-marked or patterned, comes from the style of pottery made during that time, and it is a culture mostly known as a variety of handicrafts, including cord-marked earthenware cooking and storage vessels, woven baskets, bone needles, and stone tools that were produced for daily use. If we are to consider our current state, we use technology for easier communication, electricity to give power to everything, transportations to reach destination in a short period of time, and some machines that make consumable and non-consumable items. However, in this period, there are two major inventions during the Jomon period that made life easier, which are the bow and arrow and pottery. And they seem to be local inventions, and they were not introduced from outside. The late Jomon used bows about a meter long. They could fire arrows about 50 to 60 meters away. The arrows were small and could not have been that effective against large animals. Emperor Jimmu is Japan's first emperor who is believed to have founded Japan. He reigned until 585 BC. When Crown Prince Naruhito became the Emperor of Japan at midnight on May 1, 2019, he became the 126th Emperor of Japan. Naruhito was raised in the Imperial Palace in central Tokyo and attended Gakushuin University in the city, graduating in 1982 with a bachelor's degree in history. Naruhito was the first heir to the Japanese throne to study abroad, and in addition to pursuing his schoolwork, he was exposed to such ordinary activities as doing his own laundry and using a credit card. He launched a military expedition from Hyuga near the Seto Inland Sea, captured Yamato, and established this as his center of power. In modern Japan, Jimmu's legendary accession is marked as National Foundation Day on February 11. On the other hand, Queen Himiko, also known as Pimiko, was a 3rd century CE ruler of the territory in ancient Japan, known as Yamatai, later to be known as Yamato. Queen Himiko reigned for 50 to 60 years and was known to dispatch diplomatic missions to China during her time on the throne, helping to explain the Chinese information on her. In addition, the Gishi Waijiden is the Japanese name for the Legends of the Wa people, chapter of the Record of the Three Kingdoms, Record of Wei, written by historian Chen Shou of the Jin dynasty, the dynasty that succeeded the kingdom of Wei. It is a record of ancient Japan from the Yayoi period, notable for having recorded the Japanese kingdom of Yamatai, as well as its Queen Himiko and her successor Iyo. It is disputed to this day where this kingdom is located and where it stands in Japanese history, as it is notably similar to the ancient name of Japan itself, Yamato. Here is the most famous Japanese form, the pottery. The oldest pottery in Japan was found around 11,000 BC to 10,000 BC. Everyone sees the advantage of the bow, but don't dismiss the importance of pottery. It was revolutionary. Imagine doing some simple tasks without pottery, like saving some water, storing food, cooking ramen. Now, pottery allows you to live farther away from the sources of water. The Jomon used pots to boil plants to make them edible and make the taste better. However, hunter-gatherers would not be carrying around large and heavy pots. The earliest pottery was quite simple, then became more elaborate over time. Pottery is the most famous Japanese art forms. However, scholars have discovered that pots were also used for storing corpses, such as that of infants. There are over 50 famous pottery towns and districts across Japan, each with their own characteristics and differences in the clay, glaze, and firing method used. Tourists can admire classic ceramic ware and museums, visit famous pottery towns, participate in pottery-related activities, or enjoy tableware at restaurants. These kinds of activities could surely attract tourists, develop and retain Japanese traditions along with cooperation and camaraderie. During the Yayoi period, the rice culture was imported into Japan around 100 BC. In specific terms, the Yayoi period started when a group of people with rice paddy cultivation techniques immigrated from outside the Japanese archipelago to northern Kyushu. Paddy farming began amid an existing hunter-gatherer lifestyle. People cleared forests, built canals, and started to grow rice in paddies. The paddies allowed people to produce food themselves without the need to rely on what was naturally available, bringing about a major change to their lives. Rice is Japan's most important crop and has been cultivated across the country for over 2,000 years. It is the primary staple food of the Japanese diet and of such fundamental importance to the Japanese culture that it was once used as currency, and the word for cooked rice, or gohan, has become synonymous with the general meaning of meal. A bowl of cooked rice is a central part of traditional Japanese meals. But the grain is also processed into several different types of products, including alcohol, vinegar, and flour, the common types and products of their rice. The Yayoi farmers chose their rice field sites carefully. Initially, they preferred to choose not the swampy lowland locations that would be submerged by water most of the year, but high terraces or valleys backed by a hill or mountain were chosen. The Itatsuke site in Fukuoka was a settlement on a high terrace encircled by an oval moat. After this period was followed by a couple more periods like Kofun period, a center of power had developed in the fertile Kinai plain. And by about 400 AD, the country was united as Yamato Japan, with its political center in and around the province of Yamato, about today's Naras Prefecture. Early history of Japan is a story to tell, but this story doesn't end here. That's all for now, and see you on the next video.